Wow, that was fast. You guys were commenting before I even got the notification that I was in. It also says that I have a poor connection, which doesn't make any sense because I'm on my Wi-Fi. But anyway, it is late Sunday night. For those of you on the East Coast, it is extremely late Sunday night, and I don't generally make a habit of doing streams this late. But despite the fact that I've been trying, especially since Donald Trump has become president, to unwind on the weekends and not think exclusively about politics, I have been sitting here even while Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom has been on in the background. I can't focus on it because I'm thinking about the stuff that's happened over this weekend, and I wanted to get a little bit of this out so that I could go into a week of hosting the Young Turks and productively address particular topics and stories. And thank you, Aguasir Reger. I will sleep soon. I just want to talk for a couple of minutes. So, the Sweden thing happened this weekend, and I don't fundamentally care too much about the Sweden thing. I don't think that it's a massive story, and it is at best, or I would guess at worst, the same exact story that we've had before. Donald Trump watches Fox News, and they say things at him, and he repeats them with, today we're all IKEA. Are you talking about the fact that this is all IKEA? And he just repeats them. So he heard something Sweden about refugees, and from that, last night there was a terrorist attack in Sweden. So I'm sure that you're familiar with this at this point. This is slightly worse than in the past, because in the past, O'Reilly will show crime stats, and then Trump will just repeat them. That's fine, I guess, as long as the stats are accurate. In this case, though, he didn't even understand what the story about Sweden was about. But again, I'm getting too wrapped up in this because I really don't care too much about the story. But I just briefly wanted to say that if you were at Fox right now, if you were a host at Fox, God, you must feel so powerful. And you must go into every one of your shows, especially Fox and Friends, which we know is like his favorite show on TV aside from SNL, thinking, well, God, what do I want the president to do today? Because I know that if I just talk about it on the show, or if I just put up a graphic that seems really scary, he's going to see it and he's going to act accordingly. That is an amazing amount of power, an amazing amount of responsibility on the shoulders of someone like Steve Doocy, who I wouldn't trust to tie his own tie. And it might be, I'm trying to play devil's advocate, it might be that the worst that happens from this is that he talks about what he heard on Fox. But we also know that he's an impulsive man. He's a man who really enjoys executive orders. Is it impossible that he could actually rule based on these things that he hears? I mean, to the extent that Steve Bannon allows him to determine what is in an executive order or legislation, that is certainly possible. But again, the Sweden thing isn't the most important thing. Thank you, Rooster Brewster. I appreciate that. And I haven't watched the John Oliver show yet. Maybe I should have done that instead of ruminating on my own about politics. But so he had his rally, and I am going to be the 1,000,000th person to point out that this is not a normal thing for a president to do. I will say, and I think Cenk would probably agree with me, I don't think that it is necessarily a bad thing for a president to do. The fact that we had the election, he becomes the president, and he wants to go out and do the rallies, there are people who could do that in a way that where it wouldn't be scary and it wouldn't be a bad idea. I think that Obama could have done it. I would argue in many cases he really should have. It's all about how you use it and how you frame it. If you're getting people together to talk about the real problems of the country and to propose solutions that are reasonable and rational, backed up by scientific research, then that's a perfectly fine thing to do. And imagine if Obama had done that. Imagine if before the ACA, he had gone out there and really rallied people on his side. He might have had a much easier time getting a better bill passed. He didn't do that, and he should have. The problem with Trump's rallies is not that he's holding rallies, and it's not that it's like the Nazis. It's that he's getting these people together, and then they're ranting at each other about immigrants, and they're describing situations in cities in terms of crime that don't exist, that aren't backed up by actual reality. I mean, that's largely why the title of this video is RIP Reality. Because from Trump's point of view, what is actually going on doesn't matter, of course. And then you have his actual supporters. And there I don't mean all the people that voted for Donald Trump. Here I'm specifically talking about the sorts of people who would actually go to a Trump rally, who fundamentally are completely uninterested in what is actually going on and whether what they believe syncs up with the real world. I mean, their view of the media, encouraged by their new king, is that every story is just made up. The media hates Trump, and so they just make stuff up. It's fucking absurd. The idea that, like, Jake Tapper's like, okay, what would be good? Okay, something Syria. And he just types it up. Or whoever. Insert whoever you want. Insert, whatever story you want. That idea is so ridiculous. And to hear that belief about the actual media, the reputable media, coming from people who accept without any evidence the ravings of people like Alex Jones, that's like a form of irony that should be able to kill the universe. It's so pure and powerful. And yet, they continue. They don't believe what scientists tell them. They don't believe what the media tells them. They believe what Donald Trump tells them. And when you point out his lies, they don't care. They're uninterested. It doesn't matter if he lies to them. It doesn't even matter if it's not the media pointing out. It's that he says something and then does something else. And they see both those things. They don't care about that. And that's the problem. That's what we're contending with as a country. It's not just Democrat versus Republican. It's about the growth and expansion of the share of the human population that doesn't give a fuck anymore about anything. And I think, and I'm going to include myself in this, I think that we're largely missing that. I think that we're missing the power of the ignorance and the disinterest that we have to fight against. And, elections matter, and what happens inside of parties matter. All of that matters. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have a very large percentage of the population that doesn't believe a fucking word you say. Like, let's say we had Bernie as the nominee. I think that Bernie would have won the last election. But there's a huge chunk of the country that would not have believed anything he said, and if someone that they believed was credible, a Rush Limbaugh or an Alex Jones or whatever, said that he was a communist coming to put you in a hobbit hole, they would simply believe that. Now, that share, I think, is small enough that you can still win elections against these people who don't care about reality. But it could well be growing. It could be expanding in fervor, if not in numbers, or possibly in both. And as these communities find more and more websites and cable channels and things like that to talk to each other, they become more and more immune to counter-evidence, counter-argument. And at some point, is that number big enough that we can't fight against it, even with a great candidate? I mean, we have to be focused on the future of what each party is going to look like. I get that. And we certainly have to be focused on what the nominees that we put forth look like. But if we're so focused on that internal partisan stuff that we don't get the cultural, the scientific battle that's going on right now in the hearts and minds of the American public and in other countries, I'm going to choose to be most interested in my own, but it is happening in other places, especially Europe right now, then at some point it becomes impossible to win even with the right nominee. We're not at that place. I'm not saying that we are. But could we get to that place in a decade or in 2 decades? Is 4chan gonna go away? Are these celebrities on the alt-right, the white supremacist celebrities, gonna go away? I thought that as more and more populations go forth and all that, they're just gonna naturally be more progressive. But you can grow up and 14, 15, 16 years later be a little fucking shit. You can be a little white supremacist and you can believe conspiracy theories about everything. You've never met a Jewish person in your life and yet you think that they run everything. That can happen. And we can't allow ourselves to be so focused on our own internal politics or even on any particular issue that we don't get that. I don't have the solution today. I don't know how we get these people to respect science. Again, I honestly don't know. But we have to worry about that shit. At the end of the day, elections and politics are about people, individually and in large numbers. And we have to learn how to deal with people who are being twisted into dark, anti-democratic versions of themselves. I am reading some of the comments, by the way. Yeah, Julia, I agree. I have watched a little bit of Bill Maher recently. My girlfriend enjoys his show, or at least has historically. And sometimes he has interesting people on, and it's perfectly interesting. And sometimes you can have people who are legitimately, like, they disagree on the issues, but they actually want to talk, and they care about persuasion and all that. That can actually happen there, and that's perfectly good. But recently, he's just bringing on people, and he thinks that they're coming on to do the same thing that he is. You know what? I'm not going to get into this whole thing. Maybe I'll stream about it another time. I could go on for a long time. I'm not going. Is Amos Burton the guy from, are you talking about the guy from The Expanse? And yeah, see, this is what my hair looks like when I don't put anything in it, because I didn't expect that I would be doing videos today, okay? This is a live YouTube. It is unscripted, unfiltered, and unproducted. But anyway, I could go on for a long time. I'm not going to. You guys need to sleep, I'm sure. You got to go about doing your shit. But I am very frustrated about humanity right now. At the end of the day, I feel like a lot of progressives are getting less and less progressive in terms of their values and more partisan. But that's not the sort of progressive I am. I got into this because of a couple of core values and a couple of beliefs that might not be true about humanity, about what people are actually like. And a belief that they would grow, maybe not always, but over a long enough period of time, into better and better versions of themselves. And I believe that was true. I believe that we as individuals and as a society could grow more tolerant and understanding, curious and loving and all of that. I guess we'll see if it actually happens. I'm starting to question a few of those things. But I just wanted to tell you that in the background, I am reading a background of all the shows that I mean. I am going back, and I'm doing a lot of reading and a lot of research back into some of the books that got me interested in politics in the first place. This one over here, Moral Politics, is by George Lakoff. It talks about basically the generation of the value systems that produce progressives and conservatives, and why they tend to agree on certain issues and not on other issues. And I'm not gonna point out all the books, but anyway, it's a complicated thing. We live in a complicated world. No, I don't have anything against criticizing Democrats, but yes, it's a partisan thing. It's about conflict inside of a party. That's what partisan party. Of course, that's an important thing, and we have to do it. I just think that that's not the only thing. There's always a tipping point. That's true, but what are we tipping towards? I bet all those books were written by Democrats. I don't know. I've got the Bible here. Was that written by a Democrat? I mean, it certainly seems like a progressive as of that time. Not to allow rewind. I don't control the rewinds. I don't do that. No, again, guys, I didn't say anything about not criticizing Democrats. I don't understand where you got that from. But anyway, hopefully you guys are off doing your research as well, because we face a battle that I think is far more complicated than we have been led to believe. It's going to be fought on many levels, and we have to win back some of the battles that I thought were done a decade or 2 decades ago. I've been looking at polling on acceptance of the human involvement in climate change, and man, people are easy to influence in all the wrong ways, unfortunately. You said it's more important to fight the other than to criticize Dems. I didn't say that. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, look, I've got more than enough battles over what is actually going on to engage in all these battles about things that I didn't actually say. But anyway, hopefully you guys are having a good weekend. We're entering like the fourth or fifth week of the Trump presidency. I don't know what's going to happen. I can say that I'm going to be covering everything that happens, since I'll be doing the Young Turks, I believe, every day this coming week. We're expecting a new executive order on immigration. God only knows what that's going to include. And also executive orders affecting the environment and climate change, possibly. And get ready for that, because it's going to be a fun one. Anyway, thank you for joining me, guys. I feel a little bit better, actually. I feel a little bit energized to engage with the news again in this coming week. Hopefully the same for you guys, and I will see you soon.